filmmaking legacy. There's a playwright legacy. There's a look at you with the cough button, drinking your.
Yo, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. I've been trying to tell you. I've been trying to tell you.
You did a great job. Now
I was trying to
blowing
figure
it
out how
by
to
calling
work.
it out. I'm blowing it by calling it out a little bit. But Malcolm just did a great job taking a drink of water while pressing the cough button
And clear my throat.
Just unbelievable work.
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's been
you.
spectacular. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Congratulations on this.
Thank you so much. This is it's an honor to be here, sitting here with you. And
Oh, come on.
I've listened to so many shows like this.
Yeah. This is the worst version of all those shows.
I'm like, just hearing the music and get the intro was like, oh wow, okay, we're really doing it.
Oh, we're not.
We're not doing it at all.
Do not worry about it. This is not that. I was thinking about this on the at first. I really enjoyed watching the film, but I was thinking that your debut feature is a big decision. What you're going to make for your debut feature film. Why was this the right story you wanted to tell?
You're right about that. But just making any movie, especially if you write and direct too, it's a big commitment of time of your life. It's like a chapter of your life.
Yeah. You only get so many of them, right?
You only get so many of them, and you don't know how many you get. Mm-hmm. So it was something where I wasn't necessarily seeking out a story or trying to figure out, oh, I wonder what my first movie is going to be. Is this my first movie? But more just in a state of contemplation and reflection of just where I was in my life and all the people that made my life possible. And I was just thinking deeply about my ancestors and my lineage and what they've done to put me in the position I'm in now, both literally and physically, but also just the type of person I am, the type of man I am, the type of decisions I make. I carry all of their stories in me. So when I read The Piano Lesson for the first time, it was a work that was engaging in that kind of thinking, and it just made me dive deeper and deeper down into the text, and by proxy deeper into myself, and kind of started that journey.
Part of that journey, my understanding is you went through some photographs on your mom's side. So can you tell us what you saw in those photographs?
Yeah. So my mom, I remember when I was young. I live in LA. In LA. When I was really, really young, there was a really bad earthquake. I live in the valley. I grew up in the valley.
Right.
And there was a really terrible Northridge earthquake that shook the whole city. And, everybody had to make decisions in a split second of how to get out and what are you taking with you.
Wow.
And I remember asking my mom when I was younger, like, okay, if the house goes on fire, like, what are you bringing with you? I'm thinking she's going to say, oh, this like jewelry or, this painting or something. And she was like, I'm taking all the photos. She's like, there's a box of family photos, I'm taking those. And when I was young, I didn't really understand what she meant by that. But as I got older and I started looking through these images and kind of putting them in context of who that person is. Oh, that's mom's mom, that's mom's grandma, that's grandma's grandma.
All the way back, really?
All the way back. So I found this photo, and it's an image of my grandmother who in the image, she's 4 years old. And she's on a porch with her grandparents, who this photo's taken at the turn of the century, in North Carolina. And I'm looking at three faces that resemble my own, whose stories span from slavery, but they were born into slavery and liberated from it later. And I'm like looking in these eyes, I see my sister, I see myself. I'm looking at this on my laptop that has this story next to it. And I'm just like, wow, the amount of space and time that my connection of looking at this and their eyes looking at me span is so profound, and it connects it all and made it so tangible and right in front of me. Like, that's me in that image too,
Yeah, right. Because it's not only is it you in that image, like the same eyes, the same face, the same blood, the same, and it's also just not that long ago.
It's not that long ago. Like you grow up, and I grew up in America where our history is the Black American experience is documented, but there's a lot under the rug as well.
Yeah.
And they make you feel like it's so long ago that it's so distant from you. But when you
why are we still talking about?
Why are we still talking? Why are we still talking? It's always about slavery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at this image, and time just collapses on itself. You're like, no, that's like the lesson that they taught her is the same lesson that my mother taught me, and the basis of how I live my life on a daily basis. You know what I mean? So it was just also connected in a really profound way.
How does this inspire you as you start making this film?
So when I started adapting it, you don't come in with all of these ideas necessarily, right? You're kind of just in the text itself, but you start in an adaptation process. In any storytelling process, you frame a story based on what you're trying to convey or what speaks to your heart or the truth of the moment. And much has been made of piano lesson adaptations of the ending, and it was something that that many great storytellers have struggled with, and it was something that I felt really confident in, because working in the medium of film, we have a whole new tool set that wasn't necessarily available to other storytellers working on this story. So a big basis to me, what was like my North Star, was getting back to this idea of ancestry, was this idea that there's forces around you right now, people that come from your life, that made your existence possible, that are here to support you and teach you things.
It sounds like you're saying ancestry, but it also sounds like you're talking about legacy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think maybe I'm conflating the two now, but it's an important distinction what you're making.
What does that word legacy mean to you?
Legacy is a big word. Because even with legacy, right, it's a set of ideals too. Right?
Yeah.
There's like a belief system tied into that, and ethics tied into that, that's passed down.
Yep.
It extends beyond blood per se.
Yep.
Into people of influence.
Yeah.
Right. So like I've made this film now, and this film exists in a context of August Wilson, which in itself, there's a lineage there and legacy of James Earl Jones is a part of that, Charles Dutton, Ipatha. So there's so many legacies tied into this thing that we've dealt with. So when I think of legacy, I think of that. It's like all these stories tied together.
Right. There's a family legacy. There's a filmmaking legacy. There's a playwright legacy. There's a, look at you with the cough button drinking your
I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. I've been trying to tell you. You
did a great job. Now
I was trying to figure out how to
calling
work.
it out. I'm blowing it by calling it out a little bit. But Malcolm just did a great job taking a drink of water while pressing the cough button.
And clear my throat.
Just unbelievable work.
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Spectacular stuff.
Have me back, man. I'm ready.
Listen, you can stay.
I'm auditioning
You can
right
host
now.
the show.
Let's do it.
I could use a vacation. You put out an interesting statement not that long ago. This is the last question I want to ask you about sort of your own connection to the text and the story, because I want to get into August Wilson in a second. But I read a quote from you that said, Boy Willie's plight, and Boy Willie is the character who wants to sell the family piano. He's sort of the main character, played by your brother in the film. Boy Willie's plight felt much like much of my own. What did you mean by that?
Well, when I came into the story, one of the ends was Boy Willie's story. I was like, okay, this is a father and a son story. This is a story about a son who's living in the shadow of his father's legacy, who's trying to make his father's life and sacrifice mean something, right? Who's building on what his father has left for him. So that was a story I understood intimately, right?
Thank you for saying that. That's very honest of you. That's I can only imagine what it's like to have a dad like yours and be in the entertainment industry. I understand.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And this work that we're talking about now is deeply personal to me, right? This is like the most important people in my life I've brought into it. They've trusted me with it. They've taken risk and chance on me to deliver for it. And I'm talking about the things that mean the most to me, which is my family, our stories and our culture. So this was something that I took very seriously because I saw myself in it.
Let me just talk a little bit about your family's connection to this story. So your sister and your dad, who's Denzel Washington, produced it. Your mother Pauletta and your brother John David are in the film. How is bossing your family around? You're the director. You got to do it.
No, no. It's any creative collaboration like the one that we're having here now. Yeah. It's like you want trust. And a mutual respect.
Yeah.
And even you respecting my use of the cough button, we're starting to build a rapport. So I think working with your family or working with the people that you trust and can build a family around, whether it's born family or made family, which is what all this whole production became. Like Danielle Dadweiler is my sister, Corey Hawkins, all these people, our amazing crew. Like we became a really, really tight knit family, and you really just want to have a safe space to create and take chances and and love and trust and all those things.
I'm glad to hear. You know what I was getting at. You know? Like it's hard. There's a power dynamic and you're dealing with family and all that stuff. I understand it. Samuel L. Jackson, amazing in this film. So Samuel L. Jackson, this is a pretty amazing bit of trivia that we dug up about this. I'm sure you know what we're going to say. So Samuel L. Jackson, who plays now Doker, the uncle, in the film, he originally played Boy Willie in the Yale production, which is the first ever production of this play.
That's right.
To catch people up, this movie is based on a play by the legendary playwright August Wilson. And then he was an understudy for the first Broadway production.
Yes.
What did he tell you? Did he tell you August Wilson stories? Did he?
You have no idea.
Tell me.
No idea.
What did he tell you?
So the legacy is long on this project. And he originated the role of Boy Willie, and if you are unfamiliar with the theater or the process of how plays get developed, sometimes you'll have a period where a play will be invented or be written and then put on for the first time, and you'll start to workshop that play. And you'll have a group of actors come in, and somebody will originate that character, and the screenwriter, the playwright will be there, and the director will be there. The legendary Lloyd Richards on this one, he was at Yale Rep. And they work the material together and develop it. So when Samuel L. Jackson came in, he was doing he originated Boy Willie. He would tell stories of coming in every morning, and August has come in now with 15-page monologues that he had to do that night and learn that day. And Sam's doing them, and they're changing the script, and they're changing the story, changing the lines, and just constantly workshopping it. So he's the seed of Boy Willie that's sprouting today in our film. And through John David Washington, but Sam is like in the DNA of it. But when the play moved out of Yale and then goes on a regional tour, ultimately ending on Broadway, a legendary actor also called Charles Dutton comes over and takes over the role. Yeah. And Sam has to watch him do this play on stage every night.
Because he's the understudy.
And if you don't know about theater, then understudy is almost like a backup. You're there, let's say if somebody gets sick.
Yeah, you're the backup goalie.
You're the backup goalie. Yeah. But in this production, the goalie never missed the game.
Oh, never missed the game. He would watch it every night?
He had to watch it every night. Yeah. Never got to do it on stage on Broadway.
Charles Dutton never took a day?
Charles Dutton never took a day off.
Oh, bummer.
So Sam has to sit there and watch a role that he's originated, that his DNA is in.
What did he tell your brother? Did he talk to your brother about the role? Did he give him advice?
That's something you gotta talk to them about. Yeah. It's a very private.
All right.
Private collaboration.
Did he talk to you about it?
I talked to him at great length because also I'm just curious. I'm curious. We're coming in. We're a new generation of filmmakers making this story for the new generation. There's young actors coming in with Danielle and John David and Corey and Ray, but we were always anchored by Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Potts, who represent that Lloyd Richards, August Wilson era of Broadway. So they were always bringing that kind of legend in the room.
Why was it so important for you to understand who August Wilson was? Like, I know in making this, you spoke to August Wilson's family. You traveled. Do you still live in LA?
Still live in LA.
So you traveled from Los Angeles to his neighborhood in Pittsburgh and walked around. Yeah. The text is the text, and the story is the story. And you've already told me about your connection to it and how you brought your own family connection to it. Why was it important that you understand that you walked where he walked? You walked in his shoes.
Well, before I brought myself to it, you have to understand the text itself. You have to honor and respect it to get inside of it. Yeah. So there's like an excavation there. And when you engage in this text, it's very dense, right? There's a lot of stories within the lines. There's a lot in between, and there's a lot to discover. So when you adapt something like this, there's a necessary process of getting to know and getting in the mind of the person that wrote it originally. You become like pen pals, kind of in a strange way. A relationship forms because you want to understand the intention. You want to understand what they were after, because we're not just translating or transcribing this script and then doing it on play. We're trying to understand the spirit of it and reflect that in the medium, right? So, for example, all of these. This is part of a series called the he 10 play the cycle, the American cycle.
And this is the third one made into.
This is the third one made into a film, right?
Yeah, right?
Each one is in a different decade, all mostly taking place in Pittsburgh's Hill District to present Black life, right?
The American Century Cycle.
The American Century Cycle, that's right.
Okay.
And music was always a big part of it. So what we were trying to do is get inside the intention of that, right? So we're trying to honor the people of this neighborhood that he's trying to honor in these decades, but we're going to do it in a different way. But once we go there and meet them and see what the life is like about it, we get more ideas and find a way to honor that spirit and put that into the work.
I want to be cautious in the way that I ask this, because we've been talking about legacy and ancestors, but I should point out the obvious. There are a lot of people who turn away from the work that their parents do. You and your siblings have embraced making films. When did you know that you wanted to go this way? Because I know folks whose parents are like plumbers, and the last thing they want to do is work. You know what I mean? I know people whose parents are cops. The last thing they want to do is work. You know?
Seen it,
When did you know that this? Because it's an interesting path you decided to take.
Yeah.
When did you know?
It's kind of a convoluted path too. It's like it's a little, because people assume, oh, you've been around the film industry. That's not even why I think that we all got interested in movies. I think we all got interested in movies because when we were kids, we traveled a lot.
Right.
And when you travel a lot and you're a kid, you're bored all the time.
Right.
You're just bored.
Right.
And you're like in some place you've never been, and you only have each other, because who do you know in Shreveport, Louisiana, if you're from LA? You don't know you don't have kids to play with, so you just go to Blockbuster and you rent a bunch of movies.
Right.
And you stay at the house and you just run through every series. You run through all the Fridays, you run through all the movies.
Yeah.
And then you look up and you're 18, you're like, oh, I've seen every movie in the 90s. And you go to college and you're like, oh, you can take a class on movies. That's what I've been doing my whole life.
You understand, this is hilarious to me that if you're in your hotel room as a kid watching these movies, had you looked outside the hotel room, you would have seen some of these movies been made.
Yeah. in theory, but as you know, the set is no place for kids.
Yeah, fair enough.
What I mean? It's
fair enough.
Being on a construction site, it's like there's so much work being done and so many ways to get hurt and distract the work being done and you have to be quiet all the time. 6-year-old Malcolm was not quiet at all.
Right.
There was no place for me on set as a kid.
What kind of projects are you interested in doing in the future?
I had such a meaningful experience on this, excavating my own tales of inside myself, and that's something that I want to keep doing is making work that I see myself in. I feel like I have authority over that story in some way with the people that I like working with, and I worked with such a great group of actors on this that I'd love to keep working with them.
Nothing thematically you want to do differently? Or?
I'm like such a fan of so many movies. I have like 10 different genre movies in me right now. There's so much on my laptop. I'm like, I wonder if they'll let me do this.
I think they will after this thing, man.
I hope so. I'm glad that you feel this way. You might have to make some calls on my behalf.
You know what? My name means nothing around here. My name means nothing in this town. I don't know.
That's not what I hear. That's not at all what I hear.
I don't know what voice that was I just did, but I went for it. My name means nothing in this town. See, I got a hard question for you to close things off on. In your movie, we see how an object, like a totemic object, like a piano, can become like totemic. It can be filled with meaning and metaphor and the spirit of an entire family that has nothing to do with the music that it plays, the actual function of it. I know that some families have lockets. A lot of families in the part of Canada that I'm from have quilts, these quilts that represent their family going forward. Is there an object like that in your life that tells you who you are and where you've been and where you're going?
You know what? There's not a physical object in my life like that. And this is going to sound really, 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 maybe not really strange, but it'll sound like a little random.
Look at this beard. Do you think you can get strange with me? You can get strange with me. Don't worry about it.
No. So there's not an object, but there's a kind of ritual in a way. I was really, really privileged and blessed to grow up having the mom that I had. And she would make sure, no matter what, that Monday through Friday, we all sat at the breakfast table together. She cooked breakfast Monday through Friday, summer, school year, or whatever. We all came down together and ate a meal together in the morning. and gave praise first, and were in communion for that brief part of every morning of every day. And that was something that was passed down to her because her mother was she ran the cafeteria at my mom's high school. My grandfather was a principal. That was passed down from her mother. And I think that small kind of ritual, I feel the weight of all of them kind of carried through that. And it's such a simple thing that you can do right now. You can start it right now. And I like the fact that it's an action and it doesn't need explaining. You just do it. And you're fed, you're sustained, and you're loved. And then you start your day. So that's something that I'm going to continue to do.
That's a beautiful thing. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you. This is awesome.